welcome back. I'm glad to see you return. You must love those shocking episodes, huh? Lockdown 23 and 1, man. And them intros get me going every time. But look, this story today is not a laughing matter. As a matter of fact, it's probably gonna make you look at the justice system, at least in Indiana, completely different, man. Because this dude should have been on death row if you were to ask me. But somehow he ended up in the club partying. That scares the hell out of me. But yeah, I'm gonna get into the details on exactly why this guy landed in prison and where he's at now. It's gonna blow your mind. But first, as always, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is absolutely where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Alright, here we go, and let me just say this, my apologies about the 4-day hiatus. Look, I've been handling a lot of stuff over here behind the scenes. Repairs on the house and all kinds of stuff, not to mention, the environment that you see me recording in now is about to change up dramatically. Anyway, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen, traveling back to September 12th, 2001 in Evansville, Indiana. Faith Lee's mother leaves her 11-month-old infant in the care of stepfather Jonathan Richardson. Hours into her shift, Richardson places a frantic call to emergency dispatchers from a neighbor's apartment, claiming the baby is suddenly, completely unresponsive. Emergency responders rush the 11-month-old child Faith to the hospital, but she cannot be saved. The initial defense claims an accidental fall or sudden medical episode, but the autopsy completely shatters this narrative. The medical examiner determined the official cause of death to be manual strangulation. The infant suffered horrific physical trauma, proving intentional, brutal force was applied to her neck until she stopped breathing. And even though this happened back in 2001, my condolences still go out to the victim's family and friends. Now fast forward to 2002, going through the trial process. Jury trial, by the way, they ain't believing what old Richardson's saying took place. Eventually, though, they convict him of murder, and instead of life in prison or death, he was sentenced to 55 years in prison. How does that even happen is beyond me when you take an infant's life. Never should be walking on the streets be an option again. But it was for Richardson, and he did more than walking. Now, while he was in prison, though, he had a lot of situations. A lot of people might think that someone with those kind of crimes would go to PC or something like that. Well, seems as though he probably went to general population because he's made TikTok videos breaking down some of these prison stories, and one of them's related to the AB, Aryan Brotherhood, and I'm gonna play that clip for you here in a bit, but it's wild. Not what happened to him in prison, because that's kind of common, especially if you're in GP with those kind of crimes, but the fact that he's even out here on the streets making TikTok videos about prison stories is beyond me. But before I show you that clip, let me just say that Richardson changed his name in prison to Autumn Cordeleon. I definitely probably didn't pronounce that right, but let's go ahead and watch this clip from Autumn speaking about her time in prison.
I had just come to prison. I was like 18 years old. I had yet to transition, but when I got there, a bunch of Aryans, and just a disclaimer, I have changed the names of these individuals, but one was named John, the other was named Troy, the other one was named Chuck and Chad. So what it was is Troy was like their boss, and he rolled up on me and he said, well, since you have nothing for us to take, we're going to prostitute you out. So what they did was they prostituted me out for like the next 3 years, and they actually branded me with a double bolts right there. And during this time, the COs were like on their pay. I had no way to get any form of protection or safety. And what they did is they literally paid the COs to open my door at night and let guys come into my cell and do whatever they wanted to do to me. Like any deviant thing you could possibly think of. So during this time, that CO even himself, his name again changed, was Officer McDaniels, and he literally rolled into my cell and would rape me at least once a week. This kept going for almost 3 years. Almost 100 plus guys used and abused me for anything that they could do to me. Well, the Aryans have a specific code or precepts, and what it is you're not supposed to do homosexual activity, as they put it, prostitution of your race or whatever. So their president found out after 3 years, and they ended up taking their patches. And what that means is they cut their patches off of their body and To make an example of me, later in the week, I was laying in bed and they tossed gas on me while I was sleeping. And literally, I was on fire. They lit me on fire.
Crazy, huh? Patches getting cut off and all kinds of nonsense, man. Wild. But either way, it says in March 2026, after serving just over 20 years of his 55-year sentence, walks out of state prison and quietly paroled right back into Evansville. The Evansville community groups reacted with outrage. Public records and social media tracking generated high tension as residents realized a convicted baby killer was living among them. Not only living, but partying. He has made posts on TikTok as well saying how many people absolutely love him. I wonder if these people that he's around actually know his crimes. 2026, chances are they probably do and don't even care. It says, while out, Corleone boasts about maintaining a romantic relationship with another transgender inmate, who was also incarcerated for killing an infant, sparking massive public outrage over a total lack of remorse or rehabilitation. But rather than maintaining a low profile or seeking quiet rehabilitation, Corleone aggressively pursues more public attention by also making adult content, to the absolute horror of the local community. Corleone begins producing and monetizing explicit adult content online, and I believe it's through OnlyFans. And look, keep in mind, before Richardson changed her name to Autumn Corleone or whatever, when he was in prison, he's been making some major move lawsuits. Whatever he's doing, he ain't stupid, right? Because he's getting these lawsuits filed and he's winning. He's getting early releases after such a crime is beyond me. And one of these lawsuits were, and a lot of people were speaking about it when it first happened, but in short, it stated that taxpayers had to pay for his gender change, medication or whatever it comes with that, and he won. Then another one about a pastor not giving him proper, religious material because of maybe, his sexual preferences. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he's pushing the paperwork. All this while he's in prison, right? Gets out, hits a gas pedal full speed, makes all these social media accounts, OnlyFans, and now the most recent situation with him, it says on July 15th, 2026, the Vanderbilt County Sheriff's Office abruptly tracks down and arrests Corleone, booking her back into custody. State parole officials revoke her freedom entirely but keep the exact legal trigger strictly confidential. The question here is, did the high-profile online adult content breach a specific morality clause of her parole? Or did she cross physical boundaries around children? We're only left to assume, ladies and gentlemen, but if I were to guess, it had to do something with that OnlyFans. Or maybe going out to the club and drinking. I don't know, some people, rules and regulations says you gotta stay far away from alcohol, and he did have a drink in his hand, it appeared. But it says stripped of all remaining good time behavior credits, Corleone is returned to full state custody. Autumn's new earliest possible release date is locked in for August 15, 2041. But if I were to guess, Autumn probably has a few tricks up her sleeves. Probably get out in a couple months. I'd be more shocked if Autumn has to do all the time. I would be more surprised. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments section below what you think about this one. Should he have been released from prison to begin with? I know chances are 99% of the comments are going to say hell no. Should have did him in right then and there. And I think probably within the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years, stuff's going to probably be, happening like that. Like immediate type of sentencing for the worst of the worst criminals. Because people are tired of their tax dollars going to, keeping these monsters alive in prison. Sooner or later, enough's going to be enough. These criminals, man, these certain crimes, it's going to be streamlined, if I were to guess. But either way, I'm out here, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. I got plenty more content coming your way, including some boot-smoking courtroom sentencings that you ain't going to want to miss. I promise you that. Until the next time, though, as always, y'all be easy, be safe, and stay free.